Well, topic I'm going to present in today's session is effective communication and organizational change. I'm going to discuss about how to improve communication in the workplace and all. Well, to effectively communicate, we must realize that we all are different in the way we perceive the world and use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. These are the learning outcomes, understanding the importance of communication, eradicating barriers, increasing effectiveness, globally effective communication, satisfying clients, long-term benefits, of adequate feedback, improving other communicating networks as well. Coming to the introduction, before getting into the point, we'll actually discuss about what organizational communication is about. Organizational communication is the process by which information is exchanged and understood between two or more individuals. Through this communication, we can inspire, encourage, and motivate people to positively influence their behaviors. This is the significance of communication in organizational change. Self-categorization, future viability, satisfied employee, better job performance, enhance understanding to change. Objectives of communication in organizational change. Tackle queries of employees, generate community spirit, build trust, motivate employees, employee commitment, employee participation, reduce uncertainty, job security, add feedback as well. These are the training topics which we're going to cover in today's session. The first one is understanding communication and then barriers to communication, listening skills, providing feedback, effective email writing as well. Well, coming to understanding communication, here is the communication process which we have got. There will be source and a receiver, and there will be interference as well, in which we pass a message through. Once a source sends the information to the receiver through the interference, then the receiver receives it. Once it receives it, then it will send the feedback to the source. Yeah, the receiver sends the feedback to the source through that interference as well. It's a two-way process. Well, types of communication at workplace. There were two types of communication. One is formal and one is informal communication. I'll let you know the differences between formal and informal communication. To be clear, I can easily tell you in one way. Like, formal communication is when we're talking to our superiors, for example, takes professors, something like that. At that time, we use formal type of communication. Informal is when we are talking to our friends, colleagues. Yeah, then we use informal type of communication. To explain it more, I can tell you formal communication as it is sophisticated, informative, and detailed. It combines compound, complex, simple, and complete sentences. Main points are introduced, explained, or described, exemplified, and concluded as well in formal type of communication. It's unemotive, objective, rational, and logical. Informal type of communication, there were no abbreviations, contractions, slang. Informal communication, it's the opposite of formal communication. I can say you as it's expressed in a casual, relaxed, and natural way. While talking to your friends, the type of communication we use is informal communication. Expresses a personal point of view and has, say, conversational tone. Sentences can be brief and incomplete. May use slang, figures of speech, and may use words like dude, mate, etc. Uses first person narration, you, we, and I. Uses contractions as well as abbreviations. These are the elements of organization conversation: intimacy, interactivity, inclusion, and intentionality. Intimacy is how leaders relate to employees. Interactivity is how leaders use communication channels. Inclusion is how leaders develop organizational content. Intentionality is how leaders convey strategy. There is an old model, old model corporate communication, new model organization communication, and here are the few points to go. And barriers to communication. Barriers to communication. There were two barriers to communication. Actually, they were we can say as levels of communication. One is verbal level and the other one is non-verbal. Verbal has got intra and extraverbal. Intraverbal and extraverbal. Intraverbal is intonation of a word and a sound. Extraverbal is implication of words and phrases, semantics. Non-verbal communication is something like gestures, postures, movements, something like that. Coming to barriers in communication, unwillingness to say things differently, unwillingness to relate to others differently, unwillingness to learn new approaches. These are the barriers of communication. Lack of self-confidence, lack of enthusiasm, voice quality, prejudice, disagreement between verbal and non-verbal messages, negative self-image, lack of feedback, lack of motivation of training, language and vocabulary level, lack of self-awareness. These are all barriers to communication. Well, communication process barriers are here. Let's go and have a look. Encoding barriers, transmitting barriers, responding barriers, decoding barriers. It's a type of communication process. Encoding is something like converting information or the instruction into a particular form, and then we transmit the barriers, and then like responding of barriers, and then decoding, like converting them into the usable form. That's what communication process barriers. It's something like source, channel, and then receiver. 4 barriers to effective business communication: semantic barriers, psychological or emotional barriers, organizational barriers, and personal barriers as well. Coming to the listening skills, yeah. What is listening? Listening at workplace. Levels of listening. There are some levels of listening: active level, predictive listening level, partial listening, preferential listening level, and common barriers to listening. Yeah. Let's learn about listening. Active listening is when you are actively engaged. You might be asking questions, you might be nodding. For example, if some lecture is going on in the class, we'll be like, we are actively engaged in the lecture, and we'll be like, we may be sitting quiet like this, nodding our head, and we may be asking questions. Like if you have got some doubt in between, we may be asking questions, and we may be making listening sound, something like oh, ah, uh-huh, something like that. And paraphrasing is also involved in active listening. Paraphrasing is great because when you repeat the words back to someone, you say them in your own words. That means it gives them a chance not only to clarify but also to let them know that you are listening. Yeah. This is what about listening. Coming to providing feedback. Feedback has got effective and ineffective feedback. Effective feedback is it describes the works, strengths, and make one suggestion for the next step. The feedback should be based on the criteria for success that are part of the learning target. When students are just doing assignments to comply with teacher directions, feedback becomes just more directions to follow. This is what about the feedback. Coming to effective email writing, well, this is the last but not least topic, effective email writing. How to write effective emails? Emails should be, to be clear, email should be courteous, clear, cooperative, and correct. Reader should understand what are we saying exactly. It should be, it shouldn't be confusing like a poor email. Greetings has to be perfect. Greetings has to be something like, dear Mrs. Smith, good afternoon, Mr. Robert. Hi. Even email has got informal way of communication. If you are writing a letter to our friend or something like that. Like we use hi Ali, hi Vidya, something like that, which is an informal way of communication. In effective email writing, avoid just using person's name. Don't use the word nothing. Don't use any shortcut words, something like if you want to write good day, then we write like G and then day, something like that. Valedictions. At the ending of the email, we have to write like yours faithfully, yours sincerely, something like that. It's a formal way of communication again. Yours truly, best regards, kind regards. Okay. Be careful with over familiar endings such as cheers, something like that. Keep your sentences short. Often people write as they speak. Clarity will benefit from editing. Keep emails to 3 main paragraphs with a courtesy line to start and cooperative line to finish. This is what about effective email writing. Coming to the conclusion, many organizations fail to implement change owing to improper and insufficient internal communication. Failure in the organization change projects fail because of improper communication. Communication is crucial for the success of both professional and private lives. Effective communication can be attained through competent and best plan. It plays vital role in the success of organizations. To improve communication at workplace, we have to start training programs for the employees. With the help of these, employees will be able to improve their social interaction and communication skill to effectively promote their ideas for organization betterment and training for organization betterment and training. Sessions can incorporate the listening skills, building techniques, encoding basic of communication skills and methods to improve virtual communication skills such as email writing, etc. Team building trainings will also be conducted. Performance appraisals should also be given. Thank you. This is the end of today's session. Thank you.